Okay, we're live.
We're live.
Yeah,
Yes,
live.
we're
So,
live.
so,
Here we go. The big
hello.
day.
You've just read our bottles. Welcome to Witches, Feather, and Mystical Tales. I am Barkley Taxel, the princess in a bottle, and I'm with a hippogriff who was inspired by my antics who was so inspired by my antics that she made a self-genie too, called Witchgriff. Now, this is actually the Q&A part before the main Highly Feather section. And pass to you, Ethan.
Okay. Hello there, everyone. For all mothers, happy Mother's Day. This is the first time I am hosting a panel in a convention, so pardon me if I seem to have a little bit of stage fright. My name is Ethan. I have been a brony since 2014 and I am from the Philippines. My OCs are Wishgriff and Battlegriff, which you will get to know more about during the panel. Shall we start, Parsley?
Yes, we'll start. And first, I'll give you a quick introduction to what vectors are. Now, okay, you?
Okay. Wait. Sorry, aren't you supposed to be screen sharing? Sorry, the presentation.
No screen sharing. I'm on the next slide already. Just type in
Okay.
chat
So,
and speak out.
sorry, I don't. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So, what first comes into your mind when you hear the word vector? Type your answers in the chat. Let's start with a question. Type.
Uh, Mathematics and design. Yeah, C double pipe are infinite scale images. This is in fact the motto of the NLP for the cloud, which I'll be talking about later. But basically, let me just go through this. Most pony art is actually raster graphics, which is about the pixels in the grid. But then both of us, Ethan and I, they do vectors, which means that instead of pixels that make an image, it's objects that are grounded in mathematics like ellipses, paths, rectangles. And as mentioned before, infinite scaling is the main advantage, but the file size also goes down too. And we use Inkscape, which I'll link here. This is a free tool to make vector images, and it's the only one we use. And then so on the left is you actually realize that this is the vector that I made at October in Britannia's Boogie Sleepover in October 2020. And on the left you can see a bit of pixelation because it's a raster, and on the right is a vector. Although actually, when you want to scale up or down the scale things up or down, when you want to actually export it and put it on a art site like W Peru, we often export as PNGs, but they are so high resolution that for practical purposes, we can just scale it up and not have to worry about pixelation. So Ethan, you go on. How you fell in love with? How do you actually fall in love with vectoring?
Oh yes. So how did I become like? How did I decide to do this vectoring art? Well, it was largely I was obviously inspired by Parsley here. So, however, to be more specific, actually, the reason why I got into the biz was because it was like largely a perfect storm of events. I think that honestly, you think that not that everything that came back out of this pandemic was terrible, right? But it turns out not everything that came out of this pandemic was bad, because honestly, I actually largely attribute the fact that all the closure of the schools as a result of the pandemic to why I was able to get into art in the first place and vectors, because it created a space that allowed my creative mind to blossom more than ever before. But I did not start officially doing it until the release of Inkscape 1.0 came out last year. I think it was in April or May, but regardless, I didn't start because the last version before that was actually not compatible with macOS Catalina 10.15. So I initially drew her on paper when I did. So when Inkscape 1.0 came out, I taught myself how to vector from tutorials on the MLP Vector Club. So I selected Inkscape largely because it allows me to make vectors that are show accurate, and I honestly like the style of the show. It's something I like to do, and I mostly use bases when drawing vectors that are usually found on DeviantArt, and I have not moved beyond that. Although on a few occasions I have been commissioned and plan to do open and plan to open like commissions like in some time, but like I'm still a student and I have schoolwork, so you just have to wait. Back to you.
Yeah, okay. So I am part of the MLP for the club. Let me just link it here. It's actually a DeviantArt group. I've been part of it since 2012, and he was actually inspired by me, and he started vectoring in mid 2020. Now this vector here is I did this at Shock Online 2 in December 2020, which is last year. But I actually describe myself as the one who actually elevated vectors into high art, which means that instead of just tracing from the show, I actually made things like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, a bit more detailed than what you see in the usual show, including the little rocks in the Kyushu castle at the bottom left, and this dollar hand on the bottom right, and then I put a lot of details in this bottom center image. And all the deliverable links are down here, so you can check them out. I'll actually post the full slides when the presentation ends. And now we come to NLP. Wait, just screenshot the these IDs here so you can look them up. I'll give you like 10 seconds. Okay. And now we are going on to genies, and this is what I really love. You, Ethan?
All right. Now for the fun part. Here's where it gets a little fun. What would you do if you met a pony or creature of your choice as a wish granting genie? Post your answers in the chat. We'll give you 1 minute.
Yes, Kaiser, we actually mean the wish granting ones, not the like Shante or whatever. My parents have just actually come back, but I'm in on the second floor. Eden, you answer the Pom's wish. Eden?
There's one answer that like I really like is like, oh, Poms, that's kind of like what I kind of feel you kind of Poms because like wish for health for the family, especially because this is the like in the middle of a pandemic, and like it's been it's like a been like very hard for people, and of course we have that's what we all wish for. And
Wow, wow, that is a huge
oh
text
yeah,
pose.
oh yeah, look at that. But I'll read it out. This is a
See
work
our
in
pipe.
progress. I would wish to be able to magically grant my own wishes, the power of which is magic of the timeline.
Yeah,
Would be my
that is actually still typical. And in fact, in our in our you know in the time in the canon that I've developed, that Ian has developed and related to our genies, we actually refuse such kind of wishes. We are not bound to grant wishes. It's
oh
a bit funny that I actually get such a long reply in long reply all at once. Anyway, uh, now I like genies because of the reason explained here. I got into them in 2015 from pictures. Karl Polvinsky or KB Shadow Squirrel. He actually drew this Genie Amira, Genie Trixie, and then there were these two blocks, Ask Trixie Genies and Ask Genie Twilight. I'll type the text here. Yeah, and I was actually attracted to their smooth flowing tails, yeah, and their wish granting properties. So I actually made my own OC genie, Architaxel, because I actually recently iconified her as well. Now Eden was inspired by me and the blog that I set up with Northern Verve called Ain't Friends Like Us, and he created Wishgrid Bologlyph in December 2020. The ANH blog is still running. It's actually recently got a few updates.
yeah. So
Ethan, why do you actually like Misty Tales?
oh it's more of like the magic and the jewelry and the wish granting part of it. Like and the idea of like a pony or creature gaining like phenomenal cosmic powers after being stuck into a bottle, that kind of like interested me. And as Parsi said, I quickly became a huge fan of the blog Ain't Never Had Friends Like Us by created by him and Northern Verb, who runs a blog called Ask Genie Twilight. So it the blog imagines the main six as genies and like it answers questions by Tumblr users. And I actually considered making a blog for Wishgriff and Battlegriff once, but because of issues like issues they I did not want to because like it was gonna be too hard like having to draw a picture like every few days, especially because I'm a student. And also like I that is like this, but I basically made, as you'll learn about later, my Genie OC is a hippogriff. I especially love the hippogriffs when they were first introduced into the show. I even though like I have this idea feeling that the hippogriffs are partially like Hasbro experimenting on the design that would later become Pony Life G5. I know a lot of people are gonna get mad at me for that, but back to you.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Sorry. I actually muted the audio. So this is Paclitaxel. She is the princess of science, or she. I used to call her the princess of science, and then she became princess in a bottle. The the left one was done at PonyCon in May 2020. The right one was done by Beardy even farther back. She is shy. She has Asperger's syndrome, just like me. And when she comes to wishes, she actually has a companion Winnebago called Spindle. And when it comes to wishes, she's actually not. She can twist wishes. She's a free genie, but she's not fond of twisting wishes. She can also refuse wishes if they get too out of hand. Now, these are more pictures of her. 110 Dumpstatium. This is actually part of my periodic bonus project. And the left one, this Lemire here, is not actually mine. It actually belongs to one of my friends called Nova Spark. 20611, 205. The right one was actually also done in Trocker Online 2, which was held last year. I think it was the day after my own birthday, which is 4 December. And finally, this is actually the picture I made for this very con last year at Britannia's Boogie Sleepover. The source is actually up in slide 2, 26183. Did I get it right? Never mind. You can actually find out on Wbarrow. I actually had this idea of double hand
A
for.
while ago there was like, some sort of suggestive picture on the chat organizer
I
as
just
well.
need just don't worry. Okay, we're going to the next slide. Ethan, you explain about wishing and polygriff.
Oh, okay. So this is those are my OCs, and like, as I said earlier, I was particularly enamored by the hippogriffs. I especially love the cheerful personality of Silverstream. So that's why I especially decided to make my OC, my two OCs to be specific, hippogriff hippogriffs. So they're brother and sister. They're fraternal twins. Wishgriff is the elder one because she was born first. And they, I know I just basically made them recolored Silverstream and Terramar respectively, but I, but specifically like as they are, Wishgriff was like basically made into a genie during a visit to Saudi Arabia. This is actually like her design. You can see her headband, her wings, her leggings, and her bracelet. They're based on a picture. They're based on Ask Genie Twilight's design, the design of Genie Twilight. Remember when I told you about the Ask Genie Twilight love and it never had friends like us? Their jewelry, her jewelry is based on their design. So the I like special. The design is mostly I but how do I say it? But basically, they are students in the School of Friendship. Ideally, I created them right after the show ended because I wanted to wait it out until I there was a set canon where I could insert my OCs too, so it does not mess with the canon. I remember like in one of the previous cons, I remember someone saying just do not mess with the canon because like especially because it's basically like it makes everything confusing. So her vessel is a bottle. I prefer a bottle. a battle because it's more something that is very that can be held, and whenever I role play, I usually play a dual role as both Wishgriff and Battlegriff. I also like role play as them in Twitter Ponies. Have any of you heard of that? It's a on Twitter Ponies. It's like a community of who likes to role play as characters from MLP on Twitter. I'll send you the link to their wiki, the link to the Discord servers there. But I'll just send the link to my to an article where you will learn where you can know about my OC. It's on Twitter.
And here we go. And here we go. This is the end of the session. I'm gonna switch to, okay, this is the real thing, high speed vectors. Now this is, I'm actually, okay, let me post the questions here. One of Discord chat so I'm not distracted. Okay, so this is that I'm actually, Wishgriff is very much based on Silverstream, and her brother Bottlegriff is based on Terramar, and so I'm actually using a Silverstream template here, but I actually modified some of the attributes, making it look less like Silverstream. This is part of the vector I drew here. So, what are we gonna do? I'm actually answering this ask that was made on 15 April. What will happen if someone shook a genie's bottle while the genie was inside? I want her to be looking up at the. This is actually Poppy's head. I actually got through a lot this semester. I sat for I took 7 modules this semester, and including 5 finals in 5 days. can actually like still hear me, right? Like, yeah, I'm just cloning away the see the main another great advantage of vectors is that you can actually reuse things almost wholesale from other vectors, and I have a whole library of them built over several years. Hmm. Actually, the real reason why I actually modified Wishgriff's hair to be more like Silverstream, to be less like Silverstream was sort of she looks more like Shantae. I I I have almost all the parts over several. It stretches back a long time, but I have like say left facing ponies, right facing ponies, but then there are exotic creators that have like I've only drawn once or twice, and for that I need something new. I need in a sense new bases. Leave it here. Just here. Just to answer Eden's question in the chat, cloning is what you do when you press Ctrl D. It makes a new copy, and if the original changes, so does the copy. The reason I actually cut out my audio because the reason you actually heard me, it looked like there was no audio coming from me is because I forgot to turn the relevant mics on. There are two mics, one for device audio and one for the microphone, which is built into my laptop. It's a pretty old laptop, but still useful. I can just fill this in the dark color. I actually set this to 5 pixels, so it will be 5. That is apparently the so-called ponytail done. I like to vary things a bit so that it doesn't really look exactly alike when you compare between images. Okay, now what? This is the bottle. This is Pocket's bottle itself. This is Whisker's bottle. I've actually drawn a hippogriff only like I've drawn this hippogriff like only once or twice before. There was one made as a reference, but it was not really like silver stream hippogriff, so I'm actually completely clueless on these kind of things, and I had to make a I did use references. Put this back here so that it won't look so weird. Now, the eyes used to be the biggest problem for me. Now I can actually just eyeball out the position of the eye shines and the pupil and the relative size of them relatively efficiently, to say the least. Oh, hold on, Bunny. Can you explain this power stroke tool? These power strokes, for example, they essentially allow you to make strokes that are tapered. You can adjust the width. I actually explained this in a few other cons before, but if you don't know about this, these by default strokes in SVG are have to have flat ends like this. You see here, flat ends or round ends. You cannot have tapered ends without a so-called extension to the standard, which is bow strokes. I have the eye from here. So hold on. Does this explain your? Does this answer your question? uh, to reset the ellipse, and I have a special tool for that. Now, last year, I was actually on an internship with the DSO National Laboratories. It was mostly remote, and it was actually tied to my computer science degree at NUS. I did a good job at it. So I do not suffer from such a severe case of Asperger's syndrome. It's just that, as I explained, no, wait. When I meet new people, I have the tendency to either annoy them or get bored by them. Otherwise, I'm essentially a normal person. I have to get the very fine details here very right. This is why I spend a lot of time. I can spend a lot of time on such minute details like this. You could say I'm actually a perfectionist. I suppose that's enough tweaking. And just draw in the highlights. Even for hippogriffs, even for hippogriffs, the structure of the eye is essentially much the same. It's only when they come things like chrysalis or the changelings that's when it starts to differ. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please post them in pretending stage questions. That is about it for the eyes. I'll just move on to Pocket's heads. I've only got like 10 minutes here. This I need to pull out one of my own previous pictures. Which one should I take? Yes, I can take this one. When it comes to scaling ponies and other characters, I often draw a circle and then I stipulate that all the circles that match up. Of course, this does not work for some weird characters like Discord or fourht, but for most cases it just works fine. And because I'm dealing with OCs, there's no need to try to stick to show proportion as much as possible. And for this one, I just want Barkley's head sticking out and eyes closed. Leave most of the stuff here because I'm not gonna need it. Actually bump this up to 6 pixels. This also explains why this was so thin last time. Looks so thin. Six, 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 three. The one golden rule of vectoring is to, as far as possible, make all strokes of the same type of actually of equal length, of equal width. Or Ethan, how do you make the nuggets go around which can it's just this so-called layering thing. I call this topology sometimes because it's just a bit hard. It's just layering objects without actually sometimes we're clipping them so as to make one object appear on top of another. This is a skill. Let's finish this. I'm actually running out of time. And I can, after this, I'll just end the panel. I think I'm actually, yeah, it's already 10:30 local time here, which means my time should be up. I'll just let you see what I've done so far. I will be posting the the PDF and the script that me and Ethan use in the first part of the vector, which actually took a bit longer than we expected. Like, how do you customize the color palette below? Or it's actually there's so-called palette files on the LP Feather Club, which you can insert into Inkscape, and then you have this palette ready for you. So that should bring me to the end of this panel. The first part actually took a bit too longer than I expected, but did we actually do good? Do good. So in any case, after I log off, I will post the presentation with the corrected delivery number for the Britannia's Big Sleepover thing. So I'm just saying thank you and have a pleasant rest of the convention.